Okay. So, hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about functions in C++. Now, what do we mean by functions? And the topics which we will cover in this tutorial is nothing but defining a function. What do we mean by function definition? What do we mean by function declaration or prototypes? Calling a function and about function arguments. Then we are going to talk a little about call by value and call by reference. These are the types. Now, what do we mean by function? Functions are the main part of top to down structured programming. In this programming style, we break the code into small pieces and then make the functions of that code. So functions help us to reuse that code easily. Let's see an example for that function. Let me open this online GDB. So now here you see in this compiler, we created a function which is of type integer. So let's analyze about this sum function. We created an integer function with the name sum, yeah, which takes two parameters, int a and int b. This is called as function definition. This is the part of function definition. And in the function body, addition is performed on the values of variable a and variable b. And the result is stored in variable c here. And after that, in the end, the value of C is returned to the function. That means what? In place of the function calling, wherever computer can see or compiler can see this sum name, it will just put this return type value over there. So now this is about how this function works actually. Now we will see that how to pass values to the function parameter. So now here you see, actually this main function is also a kind of function, okay, but it is a predefined function or by default. Yeah. So now here you see integer num1 num2 is there. So we have declared two integer variable num1 and num2, and we'll take their this input at the runtime. Okay. In the end, we called what? Like we are taking the input from the user, and then in the end we are calling this sum function. So as soon as we are calling this function, then what is going to happen? We call this function and pass you can say here we are passing both the number values num1 and num2. Some function will perform the addition and return the value of the sum at the same location here. That means here itself. And what is going to happen? Let's check the output first of all. Let me just run the code and then let me just provide 4. I want to perform first number would be 4, second number would be 6. Now the sum is 10, right? And even we can reuse it as many time as we want, right? So that is the function, that is the, you can say, advantage of using function. So reusability of code is the must, you can say, first and foremost thing which we take into consideration, yeah, while working with functions. So now let's talk one more important property, that is nothing but that is called as function prototype. The function prototype is the template of the function which tells the detail of the function. For example, like what is the name of the function, what are the parameters involved, what are the data type of the parameters, return type of that function, and so on. A computer will tell this thing and we need to tell this to compiler. First of all, compiler will look at this. So function prototypes help us to define a function after the function calling. An example of a function prototype is shown here, you can see. But as shown here, you can see we have made a function prototype of the function sum. Okay, like here we just defined that function sum. Right, so we are talking about that function itself. Correct. But some examples of acceptable and non-acceptable prototypes are shown here. Here you can clearly see integer sum, int a, int b can be an acceptable format, right? But here you see int sum and then integer a we are mentioning, but we have not written any data type for this b, variable b, right? So that is not acceptable. Now here you see this is an example which can be used, right? Integer also can be used to tell computer that yeah, I am just using two parameters which are of type integer, both are of integer, right? Now let me tell you about what do we mean by formal parameters. Now the variables which are declared in the function. So here is called as a function definition. So when the variables which are declared in the functions are called a formal parameters. For example, as shown here, you can see the variables a and b are called as formal parameters, and one more term is called as actual parameter. Now let's see that what do we mean by actual parameters. These are the values which are passed to the function, okay, when the function is being called. So here can you see, like we are passing num1 and num2. So num1 and num2 are called as the actual parameter. So after defining a function body as well as the prototype, we should call that function in our program. That is what we are doing here. This is called as function calling, the name of the function, and we have to pass the actual parameters into it if it requires any parameters. Okay, so here is nothing but you can say this is how we can call any function. And then function does not have to, one more type of function is there, like function does not need to have parameters always, yeah, or it should return some value. It is not actually mandation. An example of a void function is as shown here. You can see void, it is of return type void, and any name we can give. So I just gave a meaning, like it is just used to send a greeting message, or it is used to show an output, hello, good morning. Okay, this message it will print whenever is being called, right? So let's see that what should we, as shown here, you can see void as a return type means what, that a function will not return anything, and this function has no parameters also. You can't see any parameters here, right? So now let's see that whenever I call this function, what it will print. So let me just call this function anywhere in the main function. So let me just call it as greet and then round brackets. Let's see. When I click on the play button, okay, let me just pass now 1 and 1 as the first and second. So sum is 2, but hello greeting is being automatically called, right? And what will be the prototype of that function? So void would be the prototype and the name only. There is no need to provide anything. Void itself means empty. Yeah. So next, we will just discuss about what? We will discuss about the two classification of the function, that is called as call by value and call by reference. These are really very important to know about. These are the two main classification we can say. So what is this call by value in C++? So call by value is a method in C++ to pass the value to function arguments. In case of call by value, in case of this, the copies of actual parameters are sent to the formal parameters, which means that if we change the values inside the function, that will not affect the actual values. An example program for call by value is shown here. Let me just open it up. So here you can see this would be an example of what call by value. So here in this, you can clearly see we created a swap function, okay, which takes two parameters, int a, int b, right, in the function body. The values of the variable a and b are swapped, correct. So here in this part, we are calling this, here you can see in this main part, we are calling what? We are calling the swap function, right? But what else we are doing? We have initialized two integer variables x and y and printed their values. See out, value of x is this, value of y is this. Then we called what? We called this swap function and passed the values of x and y in this swap. Okay, so what it will do? It will just interchange the value. It is known to, okay, interchange this value. But see, what happens is what? Let's see first of all, okay, I am calling this swap as of now, and then after we are just printing these x and y value again. So output would be what? Let's see the output of this program. So here you can see value of x is 4. Initially x and y value was 4 and 5. But after calling this swap function also, there will be no effect on x and y. Right? You can see still they are 4 and 5. There is no effect. That is what we mean by call by value. There is no change in the actual variables or actual arguments. Yeah, rather than only we can change in, we can just make changes in the formal arguments. Correct. Now let's see what do we mean by call by reference in C++. Yeah. So in call by reference, this method is to pass the values of the function arguments, but still in this case, the reference of actual parameter, the address of actual parameters is sent to the formal parameters. As you can see here, an example of a swap with call by reference. Okay, here you can see ampersand sign. Ampersand sign is used to denote the address of that particular variable. Okay, and then here you can see address of that particular variable, actual variable will come under what? The B variable. Correct. So here, and this is the example, and then example of you can say we created what? A swap function. It is taking the reference of integer a and integer, yeah, ampersand b, right? In the function body, values of a and b are swapped, right? Interchanged, you can say, right? And we have initialized here what? We have again initialized these two variables, right? Let me just comment it out, and let me just call this swap with reference variable. Okay, now I am just calling swap with reference variable having x and y value as the parameter, or you can say actual arguments. Okay, actual parameters here, right? So what will happen? Let's have a look over its output. Okay, let me just open it up. Let's see now. So earlier my x was 4 but y was 5. Okay, but after calling this swap with reference variable, okay, call by reference method. So what is happening here? Actual data is also getting swapped. Yeah, that is the beauty of call by reference actually. Yeah, so we are mentioning what? We are mentioning the actual variables here. So the main point here is that when the call by reference method is used, it changes what? The actual values, because references of that actual values are sent to the function rather than just copy. Yeah. So this is actually all about the functions in C++. Yeah. So see you in the next video. Happy learning. Thank you.